ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start early, so it is still morning. Welcome to Parliament House for today's grand final debate. It's been another excellent year for debating essay with almost 300 teams across 60 schools, culminating in the grand final debates today. So at this point, I'll hand over to the chairman and we'll get this underway.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2021 Year 9 Division Debating Essay Grand Final Debate. My name is Sarah Binker and I am the chairman of this debate. The timekeeper is Jacinta Vistoy. The topic of this debate is that Christo's installation art is pretentious. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Unley High School, consisting of first speaker Lewis Sinclair, second speaker Henry Simon, and third speaker Thomas Moylecroft. The negative team seated to my left is from Sacred Heart College, consisting of first speaker Annalise Pittman, second speaker Grace Durans, and third speaker Caitlin Bailey. This grand final debate will be judged by a panel of 5 adjudicators who are Anushri Nair, Blake Wadlow, Carolyn Chua, Chelsea Herena, and Tony Huey. The speaking time of this debate is 5 minutes. A single warning bell will sound at 4 minutes, and a double bell will sound at 5 minutes. If required, a continuous bell will sound 30 seconds after the second bell, indicating that the speaker must conclude their speech. I ask that all mobile phones and other electronic devices be switched off for the duration of the debate. I declare this debate open and call upon Lewis Sinclair to open the affirmative case.
Good day, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christo's installation art is pretentious. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. We define Christo as Christo Vladimirov Jafachev, born in 1935 in Bulgaria, and he died in New York City in 2020. We define Christo's installation art as wrapping buildings, monuments, and objects. We define pretentious as attempting to impress by affecting greater importance or merit than is actually possessed. This means that the thing is believed to be better than it actually is. Today as the first speaker, I'll be talking to you about how sending a message no one receives is pointless and pretentious. I will address how $16.5 million is an absurd amount of money to be spending on something that is only temporary. Finally, I'll talk to you about how it is pretentious to think your art is more important than real-world consequences. Our second speaker will be talking about how Christo's art is pretentious because it doesn't take talent to create. Additionally, he will also describe how his art is pretentious because Christo assumes he has the right to ruin the functionality of these buildings, monuments for other people. The third speaker will rebut and sum up our team's case. Today I'm going to be discussing 3 points. My first point is that it's pretentious to send a message through your art if nobody's going to receive it. In an article by Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, they captured the reactions of civilians walking past Christo's artwork at the museum that was entirely wrapped in tarps. Some assumed the tarps were entirely functional. One said, "They must have some heating problem." Others were baffled by its lack of functionality. One man asked angrily, "What do they want to wrap it up for? They're not going to be able to move it anywhere. You don't go wrapping up buildings unless it's for a reason." These quotes show that people did not and do not see any reason for Christo's installation art. This is the exact reason why sending a message no one will receive is pointless and pretentious. Now to my second point. Christo's artwork costs an absurd amount of money and time. Our definition states that pretentiousness is giving greater importance or merit to something than it actually possesses. We absolutely believe that wrapping the Arc de Triomphe is not worth spending the $16.5 million it costs. The art is temporary and will only remain for 2 weeks, as stated by Xinhua Net, a Chinese news company. The money spent could go to other problems like homelessness, education, and health. For example, France International estimates that 3,000 people live on the streets every night in Paris. $16.5 million could go a long way to help reduce the rate of homelessness, instead of wasting such an amount on a temporary artwork that only lasts 2 weeks. It is pretentious to believe that one's artwork is more important than real-life problems. Now, to my third and final point, that it is pretentious to think your art is more important than real-world consequences. After Christo's 1976 project in California, Christo paid $60,000 in fines for not obtaining all the proper permits. Moreover, Rags Over the Arkansas River, an environmental group from Colorado, argued in lawsuits against Christo that the approximately 9,000 bores Christo planned to drill to anchor the 925 fabric panels would harm local wildlife such as bighorn sheep, elk, deer, eagles, and attract excessive traffic and interfere with recreational activities around the river. What's more pretentious than thinking your art is more important than respecting the rules and the environment? So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Christo's art installations are definitely pretentious. Christo's art doesn't send a clear message of what he's trying to accomplish or achieve. Additionally, Christo's art is overly expensive. Spending $16.5 million on wrapping the Arc de Triomphe is extremely pretentious. Christo ignored the real-world consequences for the environment because his art was deemed as more important. Ladies and gentlemen, Christo's artwork is indeed pretentious, and it is clear from our points that his art receives more merit than it actually possesses. Thank you.
I call upon Unley Pittman to open the negative case.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christo's installation art is pretentious. We, the negative team, believe that this statement is indubitably false. We agree with the definition given by the affirmative team. However, we would like to add that we are debating that the installation is pretentious, not Christo himself. We are also focusing on the Arc de Triomphe being pretentious, not Christo's other works, according to the link provided by Debating Essay. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that the money should be put into other areas, such as world problems. This is absolutely untrue, because as our second speaker, Grace, will state in her argument, the installation art is actually self-financed by Christo himself, as stated by Insider.org. In fact, because it is being self-financed through the sale of Christo's preparatory studies, drawings, scale models, and other pieces of work, it should not be put into other areas, because it is his own money. Today, I will be speaking to you about how the installation is a posthumous installation which was completed to pay honour and homage to Christo's wishes and body of work, continuing his legacy. And secondly, I will be speaking about the fact that Christo's installation has a deeper meaning. Our second speaker, Grace, will be speaking about how the art installation is self-financed and is temporary and interactive. Our third speaker, Caitlin, will rebut and sum up our team case. Now on to my first point. The installation is a posthumous installation which was completed to pay honour and homage to Christo's wishes and body of work, continuing his legacy. Vladimir Yavichev, Christo's nephew, was the project director who brought his uncle's 60-year dream to life. The art is paying homage to Christo's legacy with good intentions, as rapping is what Christo did and wanted to continue. The L'Arc de Triomphe wrapped remains true to the nature of his work. Christo's most notable works was wrapping a stretch of Australia's coast, the Reichstag, Berlin's Parliament House, and the gates in New York's Central Park with his wife, Jean-Claude, a French artist. According to The Guardian, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, stated that Arc de Triomphe will be wrapped according to Christo's wishes to highlight the symbolic monument of our capital and our history. More than a year after Christo's death, Paris is continuing the work of this great artist. It is an opportunity to say thank you to him. Are we really going to call Yuzachev's great tribute to his uncle pretentious when things like this are done and continue to occur? How was any other act of honouring someone not pretentious? Do we simply forget commemorating one's death in a significant manner for fears of it being named pretentious? Now to my second point. Christo's art installation has deep meaning. According to the Smithsonian magazine, Christo expressed, "I like having this commanding metallic quality of the silver with a bluish reflection," Christo explained, "and red ropes." He paused, smothering a grin, but of course, that is the colour of the flag of France. The life in his art was what Christo loved most about his wrapped works. The reason that art is so complicated is because the ideas being conveyed are so substantial. Art is a simplification of big ideas. This is why artists express themselves. The interpretation is personal. What you see, others might not, but you can't force others to see it the same. According to the Smithsonian magazine, Central Park is the city where the entire misery and horror took place after the 9/11 attacks, Christo said. Michael Bloomberg, the new mayor, gambled that Christo's long denied the gates would help lift the city's spirits and economy. Attendance at hotels, restaurants, etc. soared. The mayor estimated $8 million of tax revenue for New Yorkers. There was a buoyancy, a belief that the city was back. Yellow vest protesters in Paris were demonstrating against high prices and lopsided middle-class tax burden in 2018. President Macron needed some good news. This is why it was given approval almost instantly for the Arc de Triomphe to be wrapped. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Christo's installation art is not pretentious. His nephew, Vladimir Yavachev, is complying with Christo's wishes, paying homage to Christo. Secondly, the installation has a deep meaning and intention behind it. Christo was trying to bring joy and happiness to Paris, to allow the citizens to forget about their worries. Thank you.
To continue the affirmative case, please welcome Henry Simon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christo's art installation is pretentious. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first speaker from the negative team has tried to tell you and talk about how the Arc de Triomphe was continuing Christo's legacy. But this is proving how arrogant and pretentious the work is. It's a look at me situation. And not everyone's death needs to be commemorated. She has also said that the work has a deep meaning, but not everyone knows the meaning of his work instantly as they see it. Our first speaker has already explained how sending a message that no one receives is pointless and therefore pretentious. He's addressed how $16.5 million is an absurd amount of money to be spending on something that is only temporary. Finally, he spoke to you about how it is pretentious to think that your art is more important than real-world consequences. Today, I'll be talking to you about 2 points. My first point is that Christo's art does not take talent. Let's compare wrapping a building to an actual piece of art, such as Van Gogh, Monet, or the Mona Lisa. Wrapping a building might take time and effort, but that is different to Christo actually having talent. Anyone can wrap a building with the right resources, but not anyone has enough talent to pull off a skillful piece of art like the Mona Lisa. Therefore, it considers itself to have more merit than it actually deserves, meaning that his art is pretentious. When Christo does his art, it's more about ego and being noticed than the artwork himself. The purpose of the artwork itself is to be noticed. After all, what else would Christo do other than cover a tourist attraction in a fabric? Everyone wants to know who did it, meaning Christo gets his attention, but in no way is it magnificent. It's about it being Christo's art rather than a piece of beautiful art in itself. After all, Christo passed away last year, so wrapping the Arc de Triomphe is entirely a homage to the man rather than a belief that the art is so beautiful that it must be displayed. Now to my second point. This art is pretentious because Christo assumed he had the right to create inconveniences for the public when visiting buildings and monuments. His artwork is filled with arrogance and ego. There are many disrespectful and irritating things that come with Christo wrapping monuments, buildings, and statues. First of all, it affects tourism. Imagine going all the way to Paris and being so excited about seeing the Arc de Triomphe, only to have it covered up in plastic. It would be incredibly disappointing to lose what is for most people a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. While it may be argued that Christo's pretentious art attracts a lot of pretentious art-loving tourist dollars to the installations, we would argue that there would also be many millions lost with tourists having planned a trip to behold places like the Arc de Triomphe in its original splendour, but subsequently changing their holiday destination as a result of Christo's pretentious art. Second of all, his installation art gets rid of the functionality and beauty of buildings while his work is up. In fact, it completely ruins their purpose. Christo has wrapped things like a perfectly functioning motorcycle, which is a complete waste of time and resources, just to have it sitting there uselessly. Christo's installation art is nothing but pretentious. He gives no regard for the public and ruins monuments. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, it is undeniably clear that Christo's installation art is pretentious. Christo's art takes no talent, and what Christo does is simply a method to gain attention. There are many arrogant, irritating and pretentious things that come with Christo wrapping monuments, buildings and other objects that ruin their beauty and functionality. Christo's art is time-consuming and ruins the functionality of buildings and monuments. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, this begs the question. Why does Christo do his art? I'll tell you why. Out of arrogance and pretentiousness. Thank you.
To continue the negative case, please welcome Grace Durant.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christos' installation art is pretentious. We, the negative team, strongly believe that this topic is irrefutably false. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that no citizens will see a purpose in the art. This point is completely incorrect, as the art in fact does have a purpose. Art is an expression of individuality and beauty. If one person believes this art to be pretentious, another could think it is truly a work of art. Why, when so many people, including the government approving the project, believe that this artwork to be true, does an uncommon view, such as claiming the art is pretentious, overpower the majority. Art is art and is subjective. Therefore, one uncommon view should not overpower the majority. The first affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that it is too expensive. This is completely incorrect, as Christos is in fact self-financed. As I will state in my first point, Christos's art actually creates revenue for the French, as it encourages tourism in the area. The second affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that the art doesn't take talent, therefore is pretentious. This is completely wrong, as it is the creativity in itself that is the beauty. Regardless of how hard it is to create, it is the depth and meaning behind the scenes that counts, which is also a quality of not being pretentious, as our second speaker, Unley, has already stated. Today, our first speaker, Unley, has already spoken to you about how the art installation is posthumous work completed in order to honour the wishes of Christos and pay homage to his work, and that the installation has deep meaning, therefore not pretentious. Today, as second speaker, I will be talking to you about how the art installation was self-financed and actually increased revenue for the French, and how the art is temporary, therefore cannot be pretentious. And our third speaker, Annalise, will rebut and sum up our case. Now to my first point, that the art installation was self-financed. The artwork conducted by Christos' nephews, labelled L'Art du Triomphe Rapt, is a $16.4 million project, all of which has been self-funded. As stated by businessinsider.org, it is in fact being self-financed through the sale of Christos' preparatory studies, drawings, scale models and other pieces of work. Christos' art installation is not pretentious, as it has been completed with his own funds. Furthermore, the project has actually increased revenue for the French, rather than only being a project of great expense. By benefiting the French, it is actually increasing tourism rates and money income, as seen in other projects conducted by Christos. Especially important to an industry that is hard hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. By drawing the public's attention to the Art du Triomphe, people are actually being encouraged to visit Paris, benefiting the French, making Christos' art not pretentious and or self-centered. The Surrounding Islands project is such one example of Christos' art benefiting the country. As stated by travel.org, suddenly one of the most inspirational things to do in Florida was to drive down to Miami and look at the artworks called the Surrounding Islands. Many people did just that. By actually increasing tourism and raising revenue for not himself, Christos' art simply cannot be pretentious, as it has been self-financed. This leads me to my second point, that the art installation is temporary and nomadic, therefore it is not pretentious. The artwork we are discussing will be on view for 16 days, from Saturday, September 18th to Sunday, October 3rd, 2021, as stated by Euronews.org. Due to the short life of this project, the installation is classified as being nomadic, meaning someone or something which is frequently moves around. This artwork cannot be pretentious due to its nomadic nature, which was Christos' deliberate and considered intent. Not only does the art have meaning, as stated by our first speaker, Annalise, it is nomadic and not confined to an art gallery and not requiring citizens to pay for a ticket to view, experience and engage with the art. The interactive nature of the installation is made for not being pretentious, therefore accessible to the public. This just goes to show how the installation is in fact not pretentious, as it is nomadic and interactive. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the negative team strongly believe that Christos' installation art is not pretentious, as it is being self-financed and is temporary, therefore cannot be pretentious. Thank you.
To conclude the affirmative case, I call upon Thomas Moylecroft.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christos's art installations are pretentious. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first speaker from the negative team has tried to say that the topic is about the wrapping of the Arc de Triomphe specifically, as it is, that is what the link that debating essay has provided is about. However, this is wrong, as the topic itself states that we are talking about his art installations, plural. The first speaker and second speaker has also tried to say that it's self-financed. But that is what makes it pretentious. He spent $16.5 million on just a temporary piece of art to get attention. That clearly is showing that he thinks he has more importance and that his art has more importance than it actually does. The first speaker has also tried to say that his art makes people think. But are people even getting the right message when they think? Would it not just be better for Christo to make his statement in a more obvious and clear way? And also, how does wrapping things in a boring fabric make people think anything beyond, gee, I wonder what construction they're doing to the Arc de Triomphe or any of his other works, in terms of the buildings? The second speaker from the negative team has tried to tell you that it increases tourism. It definitely does in some degrees, but it also would remove a whole lot of other tourism. Who wants to go to Paris, for example, if we are talking about the Arc de Triomphe, to see a wrapped-up version of the Arc de Triomphe? Many people could say that the Arc de Triomphe is a beautiful building in itself. But if it is all wrapped up, where is that beauty? The second speaker has tried to tell you that because it is temporary, it is not pretentious. But while it's up, it is still pretentious. More so, with some of his works causing damage to the environment and other such issues, it is pretentious to think that setting up a temporary piece of art is worth all these damages and other issues caused by it. The second negative speaker has also tried to tell you that the view that it has no meaning is an uncommon view. However, you haven't provided any evidence that it is a common view either. There's most certainly people who think it is art and it has meaning. But on the other hand, we have provided sources saying that there's definitely people who think it doesn't have meaning, such as the very civilians who live in Paris, the people who inhabit it, or in other places, such as around the museum that we were talking about. Our first speaker spoke to you about how Christo's art sends no message that the public actually gets, nor understands. As said by many local citizens, none can even decipher a single meaning from the artworks. Secondly, they said that the sheer amount of money that he's used, such as wrapping the Arc de Triomphe, is pretentious, as it gives a very temporary work much more importance than it actually has. Lastly, they said that Christo's art did not respect the real-world consequences of the art, and thinking that one's art is important enough to be above consequences is definitely pretentious. Our second speaker has told you that Christo's art does not take any talent, and more than anything is about garnering attention. It clearly does not hold merit for its own excellence or worth in the sense of traditional art, which is valued for its beauty. What's the value of covering a beautiful monument or building with plain fabric? They also said that Christo thinks that he has a right to ruin the objects is pretentious in itself. By definition, pretentious means claiming that it has greater importance than something actually has. And the covering of multiple famous objects is most certainly thinking that art is more important than it actually is. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Christo's art is pretentious. Clearly, he thinks that he is more important than he actually has, and by that, and in addition, that his art has more merit than it actually does. With people unable to even make sense of it, and wrapping the once beautiful monuments and buildings, Christo's art can't be described by almost anything other than pretentious. Thank you.
To conclude the affirmative, my apologies. To conclude the negative case and this afternoon's debate, I call upon Caitlin Bailey.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Christo's installation art is pretentious. We, the negative team, strongly believe that this topic is irrefutably false. The first speaker on the affirmative team has tried to tell you that it is pointless. This is absolutely incorrect because it is a homage to Christo and his legacy, and the project has increased revenue for the French, as our first and second speakers have already stated. It is increasing tourism rates and money income, which has also been seen in other projects conducted by Christo, making Christo's art not pretentious nor self-centred. The Surrounding Islands project is one example of how Christo's art is benefiting the country. As stated by floridatravel.org, suddenly one of the most inspirational things to do in Florida was to drive down to Miami and look at the artwork of the surrounded islands. Many people did just that. These benefits are simply too large to ignore and are most definitely worth it and not pointless. The first and third affirmative speakers had tried to tell you that he is ignoring real-world problems such as the environment. This is wrong because the huge quantities of fabric and ropes used in the installation have all been made from a type of thermoplastic that is actually recyclable. Christo specifically planned to use this environmentally safe fabric for this art installation. How can he be pretentious when he is actually thinking about these problems before he conducts his projects? The second affirmative speaker has attempted to convince you that wrapping these landmarks defeat their own purpose, specifically focusing on the Arc de Triomphe. This is an obvious flaw, as the art piece actually brings attention to the arc rather than hiding it. While the installation can be seen as covering up the arc, it actually draws attention back to the building. By doing so, the artwork cannot be pretentious. As the building has been there since 1836, it is often overlooked by citizens. PsychologyToday.org states, "Sometimes the clearest demonstrations are when we stop noticing things, such as the buzz of a background traffic or a hum of a refrigerator. We can tune out a lot, but when our attention is then drawn to this, we begin to notice again." Christo is actually drawing attention to it, making it more noticeable than it was before. This art is reminding people of the importance of the arc and bringing light back to the monument, making the artwork not pretentious and, in result, this point invalid. The second affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that anyone can do what Christo does, and it is an art. This is completely false because Christo was known for his contemporary art, and the art can be interpreted by anyone with their own opinions. Our first speaker has already stated that Christo was trying to bring joy and happiness to Paris after protests and COVID-19. Are we really going to call abstract art not art just because it doesn't look like the Mona Lisa? The third affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that the topic is about all of his art pieces because it states installations. This is completely false because the topic, which every single speaker has been restating at the beginning of their speech, is actually not plural and singular installation. Therefore, this comment is invalid. The first affirmative speaker has also attempted to convince you that the public is against this. This is completely false, because they have only provided one or a few quotes, whereas many members of the general public and art communities have spoken up in favour of this installation. For example, at a press conference on the project, France's Cultural Minister, Roselyne Bachelot, stated, "It's a formidable gift offered to Parisians, the French and beyond, to all art lovers." Bachelot added that it was a testimony of artistic genius. "You really rediscover the beauty of the form," said 39-year-old Anzelia Wojel. "I cannot stop taking pictures because it's extraordinary. We are very lucky." Additionally, in all of the presented quotes, sources and evidence from the affirmative team, they never actually mentioned the word pretentious. Our first speaker, Unley, has already informed you that Christo's nephew is clearly just acting in accordance with his uncle's wishes. Furthermore, she has informed you that the installation has a deeper meaning and intention that grows from before the publicity. How can this be pretentious? Our second speaker, Grace, has convinced you that the art installation is self-financed. The artwork is a $16.4 million project, all of which has been self-funded by him. He really cares about this, which is just shown through the money put into it. Additionally, the project has increased revenue for the French. She's also informed you that the artwork has a nomadic nature, which was Christo's deliberate and considered intent, and it's also interactive. It's not being put behind a glass frame with the self-centered intention of it being praised by anyone who views it, such as the Mona Lisa. It is open for the public to touch and climb it. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, we the negative team strongly believe this topic is irrefutably false for the reasons we've stated. To call this act of homage and piece of art pretentious is simply ludicrous and disrespectful. Thank you.
I call upon a representative of the adjudication panel to come forward and award the debate.
Congratulations to both teams on making it to the grand finals and for such an entertaining debate. As each of the 5 adjudicators arrived at his and her decision, independent of the others, there is no individual feedback. Today's decision was unanimous. The winner of the grand final of 2021 is the negative team from Sacred Heart College. Congratulations.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
First of all, we would like to thank everyone who has helped run this, the adjudicators, all the other staff who has helped, and of course the chairman and timekeep. Of course, we'd like to thank the negative team for such a lovely debate. You all debated amazingly. We'd like to thank all the audience for coming here, watching us. And of course, we'd like to thank the members of whoever controls this building. Sorry, I do not actually know. The government, I suppose, for allowing us to have such a special opportunity to debate in here. Thank you all.
I call upon a member of the winning team to second that vote of thanks.
First of all, we would like to thank the affirmative team. You guys put up some really strong points. It was a very enjoyable debate. We'd like to thank all of our friends, family and supporters coming out here for supporting us, and our teachers for helping us for the duration of this crazy year, and the adjudicators for volunteering your time, and the chairman and timekeeper for keeping track of this debate, and finally, the people who run this place for allowing us to come here. So, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.